What's up? Why was I dancing?
I mean, we're always swaying, but we usually do it when we are eating. Welcome back to Creepy Conversations, Creeper. I'm Gabby, and
I'm Kalai. We're exhausted right now, as we said earlier to our Patreoners.
Preepers.
We're recording the previous episode and this episode in one day, and we've had technical difficulties and a lot of shit happened today, so that's why
we're just done.
We're kind of exhausted. We're supposed to record 3 episodes, but it's too much. Plus the topic is a lot. So yeah, it's draining. We're just gonna
let's go straight to it.
This episode, by the way, is part 2 of our Aum Shinrikyo series. To better understand this episode, please listen to our previous episode. If you want to learn more about, you'll understand more if you listen to the previous episode. You'll learn about You'll learn about the leader of the Aum Shinrikyo, Shoko Asahara. So, let's get right to it. Aum Shinrikyo is a Japanese doomsday cult. Sorry, if you're a new listener and you hear dogs barking, they're my neighbor's dogs, and they just want to join the podcast.
They're part of this. It's like featuring dog.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, so it's a Japanese doomsday cult founded by Shoko Asahara in 1984. It carried out the deadly Tokyo subway sarin attack in 1995 and was found to be responsible for other smaller sarin attacks in the previous year. So the cult, or as they say, new religion, was founded by Shoko Asahara and his wife, actually, Tomoko Matsumo, in their one-bedroom apartment in Tokyo, in the Shibuya ward in Tokyo. They started off as a yoga and meditation class. Some say that Tomoko Matsumoto, the wife, is actually one of the reasons why Aum Shinrikyo became what it is, because she encouraged and helped Shoko Asahara with the studies, and that she made most of the rules, and she was equally as destructive as he was. But her lawyers say otherwise. They say that she was just a disciple. Whether or not she made the rules or was equally destructive or not, the fact that she allowed this whole shit means that she, it's impossible for you to not know. You're a woman. We have instincts.
You're an accomplice, basically. But listening to you say these things, I am imagining an anime. Like a husband and wife kind of thing. It's starting to make sense why some of their storylines are that way, because it's based on true stories.
Yeah. Later on, I'll tell you how anime is gonna relate to this. Yeah.
Okay.
Like I said, look at Gabby. Her instincts are really good. She mentioned anime right away. It's part of being a woman, bro.
It's a gift.
It's a gift. Yeah. So where was I? Oh yeah. After they started their cult, it started to attract a number of graduates from Japan's elite universities, especially because they were situated in Tokyo. That's why sometimes Aum Shinrikyo is known as the religion for the elite. So because of that, a lot of people also were kind of interested, because this was like a religion where a lot of rich kids and presumably smart people were, they wanted to join it out of curiosity, also out of why are all these rich kids and all these elite people joining this cult? As we discussed in our previous episode, that's also something that Shoko Asahara wanted, because he came from a poor family. And so he always wanted to be a part of the elite. So now he's like, kind of
He's there.
getting the validation, that he wanted. The name Shinrikyo in English is Supreme Truth. So it derives, the Shinrikyo means supreme truth. The is the Sanskrit syllable It's used to represent the universe. It's the thing that the Buddhist monks usually chant. Like, yeah. I did not know about that before this, and I was
learned something new.
Yeah, me too.
Wow.
Also, Shinrikyo in Japanese roughly means the teaching of truth. So that's like the universe and like about the truth of the universe. Eventually in 2000, the organization changed its name to Aleph. It's a reference to the first letter of the Phoenician, Hebrew, and Arabic alphabets. And they also changed the logo. They did this after the 1995 Tokyo sarin gas attack. But to this day, Aleph is still tagged both as an actual religion. Like, it's not officially a religion anymore, but it still has the benefits that a religion is. Whoa. Because they were officiated as a religion before, so they still get the benefits from it, even though they were removed. But they're also tagged as a terrorist organization all over the world. And I'll let you know later why it's the world. But first, let's quickly discuss the beliefs of this cult. So, Aum Shinrikyo's beliefs were actually a mixture of different religions, plus Asahara's interpretation of elements of early Indian Buddhism and Tibetan Buddhism, as well as Hinduism, taking Shiva as the main image of worship. Shiva, who is the god of destruction and death in Hinduism, and I think in Buddhism also. And then incorporating millennialist ideas from Christianity, yoga, and the writings of none other than Nostradamus. Because Asahara kind of, I don't know if he idolized it, but he did read a lot of Nostradamus' stuff because he was considered like but he was able to
predict the future,
prophesize, a lot of the shit in the future. I don't know if I believe that. But anyway, Asahara's mission was to take upon himself, as I mentioned in the previous episode, the sins of the world, and he could claim to transfer spiritual powers to his followers just by touching them and take away their sins and bad deeds.
Which made him fat.
Listen to our previous episode why he gained weight.
Yeah.
Other scholars reject Aum Shinrikyo's claims of Buddhist characteristics and affiliation with Buddhism. Other scholars refer to it as an offshoot of Japanese Buddhism, and this was how the movement generally defined and saw itself. In our previous episodes, I have mentioned that this is what cults do. So they take something that you're familiar with to attract you and then trap you with their new rules. Kind of similar to the beginnings of Christianity. This is like not trash talking to Christianity. These are actual facts.
Yeah.
That they were trying to attract our non-Christian ancestors with like mixing pagan celebrations with,
yes,
like,
ma'am,
Christianity, aka like Easter,
and
which is actually a pagan celebration.
Even
and they took it.
Santa Claus is a Viking saint.
Yeah, right, or something like that.
Yeah, and Sinulog. We can go on, like the list goes on, guys. You get the picture.
Yeah, and he used the term Armageddon, which was from the Book of Revelations. And it wasn't about like being saved from your sins and going to heaven, but it also became about surviving the apocalypse, because he started preaching about the end of the world and how humanity would end, and only the elite few who joined Aum Shinrikyo would survive. Asahara also referred to the United States as the beast from the Book of Revelations, predicting that it would eventually attack Japan and start World War III, which is like, we're way into 2020 right now, and
it has not happened
US yet. Yeah, the US and Japan actually have a pretty good relationship now.
Yes.
So
he's probably in the wrong country.
Probably. Out of all the countries that the US has beef with, he guessed the wrong country.
Exactly.
So, Asahara also interpreted the Tibetan Buddhist concept of Phowa, which was transferring someone's consciousness through death. But I think it meant like death of your old self, meaning like killing your old habits or whatever that's not giving you enlightenment, not like actual end of life death. And but he like twisted it and like made that into like, in order to claim enlightenment, you're getting rid of your bad. Yeah, you have to die to get rid of your bad karma, or like to prevent yourself from accumulating bad karma. So their early activities, although Aum Shinrikyo from the beginning, they were already like a controversial cult, because at the beginning he was the leader. Asahara was already arrested for selling fake medicine. But they weren't associated with serious crimes, so it was just mainly, the beginning was just them claiming a lot of things, like he was Jesus, and well, before that he claimed that his blood could cure sickness, and that he had magical powers, and he could levitate
with his butt muscles.
With his butt muscles. It was during this period that Asahara became obsessed with biblical prophecies. So before, I did mention that it was mostly into Buddhism, and then he got like into Book of Revelations, but he also became obsessed with like the other parts of the Bible when it comes to like prophecies.
I think he was just like picking from different religions, like, oh, I like this part, you know what, I'll take that.
Exactly. I'll take this. I'll take this. This looks good. This sounds scary.
This is like a buffet of religions, like this, that, just a little bit.
Exactly. So how does this poor, partially blind yoga teacher become the leader of a cult that earns billions of dollars and 60,000 followers all over the world without the help of the internet? So it was through a woman that would eventually become his mistress, Hisako Ishii. She was the head of finance and extorted money from the followers, and eventually got property like acres of lands through illegal land acquisitions. So,
damn.
Yeah, Asahara, Aum Shinrikyo would not have been as successful as it was if it wasn't for the ladies. So the women helped him push his cult
dreams
into the next level. Yeah. But how did they gain such following right away? Can you guess?
Actually, no. But I'm thinking like, I don't know, something related to women, so maybe seduce them.
Actually, no.
Anime.
They gained... Yes!
That took a while for me.
They gained a lot of their followers through anime. So they used anime as a marketing tool to advertise and recruit people. At that time, there was a boom in the anime industry. Like, even until now, like, the 80s animes,
really
they're still, they still exist. People still watch them. 80s was like the peak of anime and the beginning of the original video animation, or to those that watch anime, the OVA. So people were like, hell yeah, my favorite manga is now a movie, and I can now watch it at home too. So yeah, people were like,
they were so
into that shit. Yeah. And also because, shit, sorry, I forgot to cite my sources. I'll cite it later because it's too late.
It's like, we're already here.
We're already here. Sorry. There's this book by Haruki Murakami, one of my favorite authors, where he wrote about the Tokyo sarin gas attack. The book is called Underground, where he interviewed a lot of the victims and a lot of the people involved, mostly the victims of the sarin gas attack, and he kind of saw the lives of the Japanese people as to also why they were attracted to this cult, because Haruki Murakami kind of disagreed with the media with how they were reporting a lot about the cult, but not really about the victims, and how they were pulled into the cult, as aside from the victims of the sarin gas attack, the victims of the cult as well. So he saw that a lot of people were miserable at the time with their lives, and they wanted something different. So because of anime, they had this thing having powers, the characters that they watch in the anime is something that could take the boring out of their lives. And Asahara and his cult saw their chance with these anime fanatics, and they rode the anime wave. That's why they were able to recruit so many people.
That's fucking smart.
Yeah. Anyway, Aum Shinrikyo's public relations activities included publishing comics and animated cartoons that attempted to tie its religious ideas to popular anime and manga themes, including space missions, wonderful weapons, world conspiracies, and the quest for the ultimate truth.
Are these still available?
I actually want to see them. I don't know where they're available. Yeah. We might get tagged as terrorists, but at least we know what it is.
No, but then most of the 80s manga especially have quite a serious theme to it. It's only recently wherein manga or any anime is cartoony and funny, but before it was really serious. Continue.
True. Aum Shinrikyo published several magazines, including Vajrayana, Saka, and Enjoy Happiness, adopting a somewhat missionary attitude. In private, both Asahara and his top disciples reportedly continued with their humble lifestyle, the only exception being the armored Mercedes-Benz, which was gifted by a wealthy follower. So if you were someone from the outside, you would probably think that this cult is legit because they seem to practice the Buddhist lifestyle of being non-materialistic, but behind the scenes they were actually doing something else. Before we get to that, advertising and recruitment activities, dubbed as the Salvation Plan, included claims of curing physical illness with health improvement techniques, realizing life goals by improving intelligence and positive thinking, and concentrating on what was important at the expense of leisure. This was to be accomplished by practicing ancient teachings, accurately translated from the original Pali Sutras. These three were referred to as the threefold salvation. These efforts resulted in becoming one of the fastest growing religious groups in Japan's history. If you were someone in college or someone who just graduated from college and unsure of what your future will be, and here comes a religion that's offering you that maybe you might be able to try to possibly learn to have powers, and their leader who has quote-unquote powers and does kind of look like an anime character, you would probably be like, oh, sure, let me try it. Yeah, thinking, because another thing that cults do, they will tell you you can leave anytime if you want to, but there's always a but. So for you think that, oh, it can leave anytime, but you already are fearful of leaving, so you can't leave. Yeah. So also, this is the 80s. There's no internet. No internet sleuths from Reddit and YouTube debunking all the bullshit frame by frame. So yeah, for me, it's understandable why there were so many people that kind of joined this cult and kind of believed what he preached about karma and like allowing. I don't know. I don't think I would allow my cult leader to like kill people.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I would probably understand like the positive thinking shit and like realizing life goals and stuff like that. Also, I've said this before, not in this podcast, but in life. Marketing is evil. Like, marketing dictates your wants, stopping you from achieving enlightenment through wanting shit that you don't need.
That's what we do.
Which is why Gabby and I work in marketing.
Let's not call out our industry. We're trying to keep our jobs here.
Because we are evil. No, I'm just kidding.
They make you believe you need something, right? Because, like, technically speaking, marketing, they say solves a problem. But if there is no problem, we create the problem for you so we can solve it with our products and services. You're
Which
welcome.
is why you should join our cult. That's why we're in marketing, so we can start our own cult. So yeah, there's this book called The Cult at the End of the World, where they were able to interview other members of Aum Shinrikyo. They claimed that the practices they did were the initiation rituals were often involved with hallucinogens like LSD,
acid.
Yeah, and religious practices often involved extremely, I don't know how to pronounce this word, ascetic, whatever, certain practices that claim to be yoga. I just copy pasted that part. So I'm like, oh, a word that I have not used before. But yeah, certain practices that claim to be yoga. This includes being
ascetic.
Hung upside down. Yeah, that word.
I googled
Being
it.
hung upside down and given shock therapy. Which is like, at first I'd be like, I'll join because of LSD. But then like, whoa, why am I being hung upside down?
It's like, what is this?
Being electrocuted.
It sounds like the transition in Suicide Squad for Harley to be Harley. Like when Joker just electrocuted her and shit. Like, this is that kind of shit.
Yeah. And I think it's hard, like 80s, 90s, like we didn't have cell phones back then, so how were you gonna call for help?
Beeper somebody.
Yeah, like if you're inside a compound of this dude, you're probably like, I feel so trapped. But yeah, another thing that he did, which is what e-girls do now, Shoko Asahara would sell his blood and bath water to his followers, claiming that they had healing properties. Could you imagine?
Bath water.
Yeah.
And then did he say how they should use this to heal them?
I think it was like to drink them or to bathe in them.
I was hoping not.
It depends on your need, on how much you wanted to get healed. Could you imagine? And there's like a little pee in there.
Ew. No,
Anyway,
even just the thought of scrubbing you. That's like dead skin
Right?
cells and all
It's
the
like
dirt
body
and
soup.
then suds and all that.
Exactly.
I'm over this. Okay.
So you'd also rent out head devices for $300. This device was said to align his followers' brain to his brain so that they could reach enlightenment. Could you imagine paying $300 in the 90s to rent out a device to connect it to the brain of someone you barely even know.
The Bluetooth devices are connected successfully.
That is so crazy for me. So the cult started attracting controversy in the late 80s with accusations of deceptions of recruits, holding cult members against their will and forcing them to donate their money. In 1988, Majima Terayuki was the first member, or should I say victim, of the cult of their strict worship practices. So Majima Terayuki reportedly died of a heart attack when he was suddenly submerged in freezing water as part of their worship practices. A friend of Majima Terayuki, Shuji Taguchi, who was like extremely bros close with Majima, he was in the room at that time that Majima Terayuki died. And Asahara kind of knew this, that they were close.
Yeah.
And that Majima Terayuki's death affected Shuji Taguchi. So what he did was that at first he like kind of observed Suji, and then eventually when he felt that he was going to deflect or leave, but they used the term deflect to leave, they tortured Suji. And because of this, because of torturing, you know how it is when you torture somebody, they would eventually admit to shit that they're not really doing.
Just for you to stop.
Yeah, so we don't really know if Suji admitted that he was about to leave because he really wanted to or because he was being tortured. But eventually, whether or not he was forced, he admitted that he was thinking of leaving the cult and avenging the death of his friend Majima. And because of this, Asahara ordered one of his followers, Hideo Mirai, the head of the Minister of Science and Technology, to kill Suji Taguchi, and along with 4 other disciples, they strangled Suji with a rope. Hideo Mirai, even though his role was supposed to be a scientist, that's like his main role, he became kind of like a right hand to Asahara when it comes to silencing followers who were deflecting. So yeah, could you imagine being a college graduate and taking orders from this dude who can't even fucking levitate?
He can't even see. Like 70%, he can't even see shit.
Yeah. He's not even a college graduate, which is like, I know I didn't graduate college too, obviously, but there are a lot of people who are smart, non-college graduates, but like, could you imagine being like a scientist and then listening to someone who barely went to school? No. Your parents didn't pay for your school for you to be in a cult. Don't do it, people.
Unless it's ours.
Yeah, but the reason why, we're not like victim blaming here, but the reason why Hideo Mirai kind of became really interested in Aum Shinrikyo, because he was really interested in the supernatural and the occult. And Asahara kind of saw that and used his interest against him and kind of encouraged him to think darkly, like encourage his thoughts. Like a regular person would have thoughts of like, I really want to kill this dude, but then like brush it off. But Asahara kind of like fed into that to make Hideo Mirai what he became. In October 1989, the group negotiations with Tsutsumi Sakamoto, which I mentioned last episode, he's an anti-cult lawyer. He started threatening a lawsuit against Aum Shinrikyo, and they saw that as something that could potentially bankrupt them, because in the same month, Tatsumi Sakamoto was like a really known lawyer going against cults, He had previously successfully led a class action suit against the Unification Church on behalf of relatives of the Unification Church members. So he was able to sue this other cult called the Unification Church for assets transferred to the group and for harm inflicted by worsened family relationships. A public relations campaign in which protesters demanded public what is happening to me? Demanded public attention to their cause was instrumental to Sakamoto's plan. And because of that, the Unification Church suffered a serious financial blow, and that was the reason why they became bankrupt. So Sakamoto started organizing a similar anti-Aum Shinrikyo public relations campaign, similar to what he did with Unification Church. Sakamoto apparently sought to demonstrate to Aum Shinrikyo members, similar to what he did with the Unification Church, where he found members who did not join the group voluntarily, but were lured in with deception and were probably held against their will by threats and manipulation. So the religious items that were religious, quote-unquote, items that were being sold at a really high price and then draining the money of household members that bought those religious pieces. One of them was the blood that Shoko Asahara sold. What he did was do a blood test to see if there were any abnormalities to his blood, anything that's not special to the blood of Asahara. So he did a blood test, and then they eventually found out that there were no signs of anything unusual. He then proceeded to pursue with the class action suit, and he initiated the establishment of Aum Shinrikyo Higai Taisaku Ben Dogan, or also known as the Coalition of Help for Those Affected by Aum Shinrikyo. This was later renamed as Aum Shinrikyo Victims Association, and as of 2006, they still exist.
That's a better name, actually, because the first two ones were just like, oh god, I can't even pronounce this.
Yeah. After the blood test, what they did was Asahara was scared that this would become public because people would know that he's just a normal person.
Normie!
So the blood test was on October 31st. Several days later, on the 3rd of November 1989, several Aum Shinrikyo members, including his right hand, Hideo Murai, Satoru Hashimoto, a martial arts master, Tomomasa Nakagawa, and Kazuaki Okazaki, drive to Yokohama where Sakamoto lived. They carried a pouch with 14 hypodermic syringes and a supply of potassium chloride. So according to the court testimony provided by the perpetrators later, they planned to use the chemical substance to kidnap Sakamoto from the Yokohama train station, but contrary to their expectations, he did not show up because it was a holiday. So he slept in and was at home. So what they did, at 3 a.m., the group entered Sakamoto's apartment through an unlocked door and struck Sakamoto's head with a hammer. His wife, Satoko Sakamoto, who was 29 years old at the time, was beaten. And
oh my God.
The next one is so sad. Their infant son, Tatsuhiko Sakamoto, who was 14 months old, was injected with potassium chloride, and then his face was covered with a cloth.
What the
Right? Just for the sake of not letting the people know that his blood is normal, he ordered these things. While the two adults struggled, were also injected eventually with potassium chloride. The wife, Satoko, died from the toxic injection, but Tumi Sakamoto, the lawyer, did not die as quickly from the injection alone.
Oh my god.
So what they did was strangle him. Then the family's remains were placed in a metal drum and hidden in 3 separate rural areas in 3 different prefectures. So Chuchumi, the lawyer, was in Niigata. Sakoto, the wife, was in Toyama, and the baby Tatsuhiko was in Nagano. So what they did that, in case the bodies were uncovered, police will not link the 3 incidents.
Seriously?
Yeah, their bedsheets were burned and the tools were dropped in the ocean, and the victims' teeth were smashed to like hinder identification.
Yeah.
Their bodies weren't found until the perpetrators revealed the location after they were captured, after they were connected with the 1995 Tokyo subway attack.
How do you sleep at night when you do that?
Could you imagine being like a normal college kid and then all of a sudden you're like killing people? That's right. A big no. Get out of that cult.
I'm still mind blown at how crazy it is, and they did that to an entire family and a baby. Like, wow.
Exactly. And who knows how many victims they did to that, because like I said in the previous episode, whenever they had victims that were deflecting, they would remove the bad karma from their bodies and burn their ashes. What? Burn them until they're ashes. You cannot burn ashes. Jesus. The cult is also known to have considered assassinations of several individuals that were very critical of Aum Shinrikyo. One of them is the head of the Buddhist sect Soka Gakkai, and he was also the head of the Institute for Research in Human Happiness. Like, could you imagine killing someone who's researching human happiness?
I would help that dude.
Right? Isn't that the goal of your, like, friggin' new religion? To find enlightenment, and now you're killing people who are after happiness just because they were critical of your cult? That's fucking crazy. Another one, cartoonist Yoshinori Kobayashi, also began satirizing the cult. He was also included in the Aum Shinrikyo's assassination list, and there was like an assassination attempt on him in 1993. Could you imagine being an artist and someone tries to kill you? You're just telling the truth.
Also, you're just making jokes.
Art,
like satire, right?
Exactly. He's not even like for real. Well, like, you know what I mean?
Who knows? We could be part of one of their lists. We're not that important.
Yeah, guys, we're softies, so please.
We just want money.
Give us your money instead.
That's all we want.
Or you can to our Patreon.
Yes. You can actually just pay us to shut up if that's what you want.
Right. I mean, we can just take down the episode. No, I'm just kidding. We have 0 morals. Jesus, it's not that hard.
Yeah.
Just kidding. Or am I? No. In July 1993, I mentioned this in the previous episode, or was this in earlier this episode, or was this in the previous episode? I can't remember.
There is no line between there anyway.
Cult members sprayed amounts of liquid containing Bacillus anthracis, also known as anthrax.
Jesus, you should have just said anthrax.
Because that's what I copy-pasted. Jesus.
Okay. Ooh. Gosh.
This is an educational podcast. No, I'm just kidding.
Where we can't pronounce 90% of the words that you need to learn.
Yeah. You have Google. You're listening to this podcast because you have internet.
Yes.
So yeah, they sprayed anthrax cooling tower on the roof of Aum Shinrikyo's Tokyo Towers. And like I said earlier, was it earlier or last episode?
I think that was the last episode.
Yeah, it failed because they weren't able to mix it properly. And they just basically got the milder version of anthrax, which I didn't know that there's a mild version of anthrax.
I didn't even know that too.
That's crazy. But, like, you know, good thing that they're, like, not really that brilliant. The scientists aren't really that. You know what? I take that back because, you know, they could be listening and they'd be like, oh, I'll show you brilliance. I don't want to know.
Like, I was gonna agree because most of the shit that they made, like the chemicals, were all wrong.
Yeah, but thank God, right?
Yeah, it's a good thing.
The universe. It's a good thing that they're not, you know. Never mind. At the end of 1993, the cult started secretly manufacturing the nerve agent sarin and later VX gas, which is like, wow, you guys really had the time. You know, while other cults usually just bomb places, they went for the nerdy route and went for biochemical weapons.
They wanted to be extra.
Yeah, which is like a good thing because it's not an easy thing to make. So they weren't successful, or at least not as successful as they wanted to be. They also attempted to manufacture 1,000 automatic rifles, but only managed to make one. What are they doing with their time?
They have all the time in the world. Actually, I think they're trying to flex. But
right?
They're not doing a very good job at it.
Yeah, they're busy making their buttocks muscles strong. That's why they couldn't make shit. According to the testimony of Kenichi Hirose at the Tokyo District Court in 2000, he mentioned that Asahara wanted the group to be self-sufficient in manufacturing AK-47s, with one working model smuggled secretly to Japan in order to be studied and used as a basis for future Aum Shinrikyo made AK-47s. The police seized the AK-47 components and blueprints from a vehicle used by an Aum Shinrikyo member in April 6, 1995, which was like after the sarin gas attack. So even though they already failed the sarin gas attack in March, they still kept going. They still had like other plans of mass destruction. Like I said earlier, super villains. They wanted their cult to be like anime super villains.
I think he had like this thing in his head about the whole status thing, and I think it's a major flex when you're like an elite, you're smart, you're rich, you're there. So he wanted to go extra. It just didn't work out for him.
I find it weird. Maybe if I was in his place and Shiva would like appear to me, whether that's true or not, and Shiva would say that, oh, like, dude, you're gonna be the reason of destruction for this world, I'd be like, hell no. No.
Yeah, I'm gonna go look for another god. Thanks for your time. Bye.
Also, I'd be like, obviously, I'm special because you came to me. So how about I do something with that specialness and, you know, create cures? Because I have a group of a bunch of nerds. How about I make a cure for cancer or HIV or whatever?
Find the reason for happiness.
Right? He could have gone the other way instead of like creating weapons of mass destruction and created medicine. He could have, look at pharmacists. They're rich as fuck and no one's raiding their houses.
Exactly.
Anyway, never join cults, people, except for ours. Aum Shinrikyo tested its sarin on sheep at the Banjawarn Station, a remote pastoral property in Western Australia. I think until now, their property in Western Australia still exists. I think it still exists. Because when I Googled it, it still said that thing.
Where exactly? Western Australia.
Just search Banjawarn Station.
Okay.
During their experiment, they were able to kill 29 sheep. Both sarin and VX were then used in several assassination attempts between 1994 to 1995. On the night of June 27, 1994, the cult carried out a chemical weapons attack against civilians when they released sarin in the central Japanese city of Matsumoto, Nagano. With the help of a converted refrigerator truck, members of the cult released a cloud of sarin which floated near the homes of judges who were overseeing a lawsuit concerning a real estate dispute which was predicted to go against the cult. So basically, they were like eliminating people who could make their cult look bad. The Matsumoto incident killed 8 people and harmed 500 more. Police investigations focused only on an innocent local resident, Yoshiyuki Kuono, and failed to implicate the cult at the time. Could you imagine being like a local person and you're suddenly being accused of releasing sarin, which this dude probably had no idea what the fuck sarin is.
Exactly. Jeez.
It was only after the Tokyo subway attack that Aum Shinrikyo was discovered to be behind the Matsumoto sarin attack. In the 1994 and 1995, Masami Tsuchiya of Aum Shinrikyo synthesized 100 to 200 grams of XV, which was used to attack 3 persons. 2 people were injured and a 28-year-old man was killed, and he was believed to be the first fully documented victim of XV. So we don't know if they've used XV before to kill other people. The XV victim, who Shoko Asahara actually suspected was a spy, was attacked at 7 a.m. on the 12th of December 1994 on the street of Osaka by Tomomitsu Nimi and another Aum Shinrikyo member who sprinkled the nerve agent on his neck. So that's how ballsy they were. Imagine killing someone at 7 a.m. on the street with possibly people watching you.
Yeah, they can see that.
Yeah. He chased them. The victim chased Tomomitsu Nimi and the other Aum Shinrikyo member. They were chased about 100 yards before the victim collapsed and died. He died 10 days later without coming out of a deep coma. Fuck. The doctors in the hospital suspected at that time that he had been poisoned with organophosphate pesticide. So they also chose VX. Have I been saying XV this whole time?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, shit. VX. I might be dyslexic. This has happened multiple times already. The VX nerve agent, they chose that and sarin gas because they're undetectable. Yeah, they actually did research on their shit. And could you imagine if Aum Shinrikyo existed now, they could be
North
super
Korea.
destructive. Exactly. Like the North Korea of Japan.
We shouldn't have said that.
I'm just kidding. Like I said, we love jokes. You should too.
We've been kidding the whole episode.
Please. But we barely go out, so we're probably safe.
We're fine.
Or we could not be because they know where we are all the time. That's for another
Anyway,
panic attack.
we're saving that up for tonight.
Anyway, the cause of death was... Sorry, we're not laughing at the murderers. We're laughing at ourselves, obviously. Yes. But the cause of death was pinned down only after cult members were arrested again after the Tokyo subway sarin gas attack in March 1995, when they confessed to the killing. Ethyl methylphosphonate. I'm just gonna skip this part because I know I can't say it. Those chemicals were later found in the body of the victim, and unlike the cases of sarin and the Matsumoto incident and the Tokyo subway sarin gas attack, XV was not used for mass murder. I think if they decided to use... I said XV again. VX.
I didn't even notice.
Jesus.
I was just like, yes.
If they used VX, that could have been more deadly. So I feel like the universe tried its best to
stop them.
Like, woo! Like, to stop
like,
them.
Joke's on you. Or it could possibly have been like Shiva or Nostradamus and being like, you know what? Nah, you're reading things wrong.
Shiva's probably like, y'all gonna pin this on me? Hell no.
It's like cock block every time.
In January 1994, Asahara ordered the killing of a sect member, Kotaro Ochida, who was a pharmacist at an Aum Shinrikyo hospital. So that's how rich they were. They had their own hospitals.
Shit.
Ochida, who tried to escape from a sect compound, was held down and strangled by another Aum Shinrikyo member who allegedly told him that he too would be killed if he did not strangle Ochida. In February 1995, several cult members kidnapped Kiyoshi Kariya. He's the 69-year-old brother of a member who escaped from a Tokyo street and took him into a compound in Kamikyushiki near Mount Fuji, where he was killed. His corpse was then destroyed and put in a microwave powdered incarceration.
Shit.
Yep. The remains were disposed in a lake called Lake Kawaguchi. So could you imagine how many victims, how many else that they were able to kill and by using this microwave powered incarcerator? Before Kiyoshi Kariya was abducted, he had been receiving threatening phone calls demanding to know the whereabouts of his sister, the one who was the ex-member of Aum Shinrikyo, and he had left a note saying, if I disappear, I was abducted by Aum Shinrikyo. And they eventually did admit to killing him. Yeah. And they were the ones who admitted to putting his corpse in a microwave-powered incarcerator. The police made plans to simultaneously raid cult facilities across Japan in March 1999, but prosecutors alleged that Asahara was tipped off about this, and he ordered the subway attack to divert the police so that they wouldn't raid his properties. So over the next week, a full scale of Aum Shinrikyo's activities were revealed for the time after the Tokyo subway sarin gas attack. At the cult's headquarters in Kamikyushiki, on the foot of Mount Fuji, police found explosives, chemical weapons, and a Russian Mi-17 military helicopter. While the finding of biological warfare agents such as anthrax and Ebola cultures were reported, they were using Ebola as a weapon of mass destruction.
What the hell?
Yeah, those were like only reports. The police didn't really confirm it, so it's now like they're now trying to debunk it as something that has been exaggerated.
Yeah.
but because the police didn't really say anything about it, so we don't know if it's like real or not. And
that is still scary shit, man. Who knows?
Yeah.
COVID could have been the same.
Conspiracy time. But yeah, there were stockpiles of chemicals that could be used to producing sarin to kill 4 million people. That was the shit that they found in the compound. Police also found laboratories to manufacture drugs such as LSD, methamphetamine.
Meth.
Is that crack?
Yes.
Meth, right?
It's a cleaner version. It's a purer version of crack.
Oh. And a crude form of truth serum. They also found a safe containing millions of US dollars in cash and gold and cells, and many still containing prisoners. So they found literally prison cells containing prisoners.
What? I think they have their own world. Like,
Yep.
Wow.
And what's crazy is that they have followers in Russia. That's where they got a lot of their arms dealing with the people in Russia. They had a member, shoot, I forgot the name of the member. Where is it? He is now the leader of the Rainbow something. Wait, hang on. Let me just
think search it. Actually, now that you think about it, it's not very surprising that they attracted people from Russia, because I mean, the kinds of things that they're doing is pretty hardcore. Like, it's not your usual terrorist attack.
They attracted people from Russia through spirituality.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say anime again.
Maybe. I think they did.
Oh, like, in a way, it could be.
And the Russians were like, yeah, this shit is lit.
I'm into this.
Yeah, so the name of the dude, Fumihiro Joyu, who's now the leader of Hikari Noa, he was also responsible for Aleph, how Aum Shinrikyo transitioned into Aleph, and then he eventually left Aleph and created his own cult called Hikari Noa, or the Circle of Rainbow Light in English.
Oh, that sounds like a cult that I would join, just because it says rainbow.
Rainbow. They're also still a doomsday cult, and this dude, Fumihiro Joyu, is actually the spokesperson and the public relations manager of Aum Shinrikyo before, and he also, like I mentioned earlier, the creator of Aleph. He was also the spokesperson and public relations manager of Aleph, and then he created his own new religious movement in 2007. They're also tagged still as a terrorist organization. They were for a while removed from that tagging, but then they found like some connection still with Aleph. I think the government was the one that found it. No, sorry, there were reports that there were still connection between Aleph and the Circle of Rainbow Light, or Hikari Noa. It sounds so badass when you say it in Japanese, like Hikari Noa, but then you say it in English, the Circle of Rainbow Light.
I'm imagining like My Little Pony, kind of.
Right? My Little Ponies becoming terrorists. That is like, not cute.
Oh man. Teletubbies with like heavy machine guns and all that shit.
Lisa Frank. Shit. But yeah, surprisingly, this dude, the PR dude, did not go to jail. What was his name again? Fumihiro Joyu. He did not go to jail after like Aum Shinrikyo went down and other members were arrested. He was like, I think this dude is also really charming because he's a PR dude.
Oh, yeah.
They are. You know how they are. And then he's listening right now.
We're not trying to give PR peoples a bad rap. It's just like the truth.
It's just him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Could you imagine suddenly someone's trying to join our Zoom call and you check it?
And it's like, oh my god.
Joyu.
It's like, end
Ladies
call.
and gentlemen.
Welcome our
Goodbye.
special guest. He will be taking over the podcast.
Goodbye. There's guns to our heads now. Goodbye. This is not a laughing matter, and we're laughing at it. Sorry.
This is just how we react.
This is how our depression works.
We laugh at everything, guys. Everything makes us laugh. Period.
Yeah, so that we don't go crazy. Anyway, during the raids, Aum Shinrikyo issued statements claiming that the chemicals were actually just fertilizers. And yeah, over the next 6 weeks, over 150 cult members were arrested for a variety of offenses. The media was now stationed outside of Aum Shinrikyo's Tokyo headquarters on Komazawa Dori in Aoyama for months after the attack, and after the arrests, waiting for action and to get images of the cult members, like other members that weren't arrested.
Yeah.
On the 30th of March 1995, Takagi Kunimatsu, the chief of the National Police Agency, was shot 4 times near his house in Tokyo and was seriously wounded. But he was able to survive.
Nice.
Yeah. Many suspected the involvement of Aum Shinrikyo of the shooting, but nobody was ever charged because they couldn't really find evidence, and they had like other suspects as well. In April 23, 1995, Mr. Dark Scientist of Aum Shinrikyo, Hideo Murai, was stabbed to death outside the cult's Tokyo headquarters in front of a crowd of about 100 reporters and in front of cameras. The man responsible was a Korean member of Yamaguchi Gumi, was arrested and eventually convicted of the murder. This dude, after stabbing Hideo Murai, he did not even run away. He just stood there and waited for the cops to arrest him. And he did not resist at all. Like, he was just like, I'm gonna kill this dude, and that's it. I'm okay in life now. That's
like, I know what I did.
I know. Could you imagine, like, after, I'm sorry, I know what I did.
I'm guilty.
Not innocent. Handcuff me. His motives remains unknown.
I was thinking of a TikTok skit, like when they handcuff you. It's like, tighter, daddy.
Oh my god. No. Debbie is such a Gen Z. She's a TikToker now.
I'm not. I am so not. I'm barely whatever. Anyway, not the point. Sorry.
His motive remains to be unknown. Did I say that already? I don't know.
No.
On the evening of the 5th of May, a burning paper bag was discovered in a toilet in Tokyo's busy Shinjuku station. And I think the Shinjuku station is the busiest, if I'm correct. I'm pretty sure I'm wrong.
It's like, we don't know.
Let me know. Upon examination, it was revealed that it was hydrogen cyanide, a device which, had it not been extinguished at that time, it would have released enough gas into the ventilation system and could potentially kill 10,000 commuters. On the 4th of July, several undetonated cyanide devices were found at other locations in the Tokyo subway. So, even if their headquarters were surrounded, these bitches would not stop. They really wanted the end of the world. And I don't know what they got from killing all these innocent people, but yeah, anyway.
It feels like they were in an action movie. Like, I swear, it's so dramatic.
It's like they don't know that they're in real life. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, they were desensitized at how humans are actually humans just because they're not following their leaders.
Yeah.
You know, that's not how it is. It's okay for people to disagree. You don't have to kill somebody else because they disagree with you.
We can be
Jesus.
friends and not have the same beliefs.
Yes, this goes to any Aleph member or Circle of Rainbow Light listening right now. Let us disagree in peace. During this time, numerous cult members were arrested for various offenses, but arrests of the most senior members on the charge of the subway gassing had not taken place yet. In June, an individual unrelated, Aum Shinrikyo, had launched a copycat attack hijacking All Nippon Airways Flight 857, a Boeing 747 bound to Hokodate from Tokyo. The hijacker claimed to be an Aum Shinrikyo member in possession of sarin and plastic explosives, but these claims were actually found to be false. So I think he was just
looking for a way out.
Yeah, probably wanted Aum Shinrikyo members, all of them, to be in prison, so he exaggerated shit. Asahara was finally found hiding within a wall of a cult building known as the Sixth Satien in the Kimikushiki complex on the 16th of May and was arrested. On the same day, the cult mailed a parcel bomb to the office of Yukio Aoshima, the governor of Tokyo, blowing off the fingers of his secretary's hand. That's how crazy they were.
Why would you do that?
Right? Asahara was initially charged with 23 counts of murder and 16 other offenses. The trial, dubbed to be the trial of the century by the press, and ruled Asahara guilty of masterminding the attacks and sentenced him to death. The indictment was appealed unsuccessfully. A number of senior members accused of the participation, such as Masami Tatsuya and all the other dudes, was sentenced to death as well. The reason why a small circle of mostly senior Aum Shinrikyo members committed atrocities and the extent of their personal involvement by Asahara still isn't unclear, although several theorists have attempted to understand what was going on.
Yeah.
After 1995, wait, no, not really. On the 21st of June, 1995, Asahara acknowledged that in January 1994, he ordered the killing of a sect member, Kotaro Ochida. Remember the one that I mentioned earlier, the pharmacist at the Aum Shinrikyo hospital who tried to escape. He finally admitted to that. On the 10th of October 1995, Aum Shinrikyo was stripped of its official status as a religious legal entity, and they declared bankruptcy in 1996. But they, like I mentioned, they still continue to operate under Aleph, and they are still protected under the constitutional guarantee of freedom of religion, even though they're not officially a religious legal entity. And they're now funded by a successful group of computer businessmen and donations, but they are still under strict surveillance. Attempts to ban the group altogether under the 1952 Subversive Activities Prevention Law were rejected by the Public Security Examination Commission in 1995. They went under a couple of transformations after Asahara was arrested. They still claim that they didn't know about the attacks.
Oh, please.
That those attacks were isolated and the other members had no idea. Right? Asahara's two preteen sons were officially, they replaced him as a guru, and when they reopened in February 2000 under the name Aleph. They changed the doctrines as well to religious texts related to Vajrayana Buddhist doctrines, and the Bible were removed. So they removed the Bible to remove the Book of Revelation part where they were saying that,
Right.
the end is near and whatever. The group also apologized to the victims of the sarin gas attack and established a special compensation fund. Provocative publications and activities that alarm the society are no longer published. So the books that they used to publish aren't out anymore. So they probably just have it with them. Koki Ishii, who was a legislator who formed an anti-Aum Shinrikyo committee in the National Diet in 1995, was murdered in 2000.
Wow.
They believe that Aum Shinrikyo, or apologists of the Aum Shinrikyo, were responsible for the murder. Over 15 years later, only 3 fugitives were being actively sought. At 11:50 p.m. on the 31st of December 11, Makoto Hirata surrendered himself to the police and was arrested on suspicion of being involved in the 1995 abduction of Kiyoshi Kariya, the non-member who had died during an Aum Shinrikyo kidnapping and interrogation. And in 3rd of June 2012, police captured Naoko Kikuchi, a second fugitive acting on the tip of local residents. So let's fast forward to 2016. Remember that I mentioned about Russia? On the 5th of April 2016, the Investigative Committee of Russia announced it opened a criminal case against Aum Shinrikyo members and followers, and that its investigators, along with the Federal Security Service forces, were conducting raids in Moscow and St. Petersburg to find them and confiscate literature, religious items, and electronic information. On the 20th of September 2016, the Russian government banned Aum Shinrikyo in the country and declared it as a terrorist organization.
They seem like an Asian version of, not that ISIS isn't Asian, but like kind of their version of that.
East Asian version. Yeah, because ISIS is, I would consider them a cult.
Yeah. No, a lot of, even Al-Qaeda. Like any terrorist group that is led by beliefs of religion would be a cult.
Religious terrorists.
Yes.
Yeah. Cults can be terrorists, people. That's what you need to know. Last 2 things. In November 2017, police raided 5 offices of Aleph in an investigation into the group's recruiting practices after a woman paid tens of thousands of yen for study sessions for their practices. In 2019, January 1st, 2019, in Tokyo, Aum Shinrikyo sympathizer Kazuhiro Kasukabe told authorities he intentionally rammed into pedestrians crowded into narrow Takeshita Street in Harajuku District as a terrorist attack in retaliation for the execution of the Aum Shinrikyo members that were killed. It was retaliation for an execution. That's what he said. It remains unclear whether he was referencing the 2018 executions of Aum Shinrikyo members or was it something else, but he was known to be an Aum Shinrikyo sympathizer. The attack was on New Year's Day because it was on 1st of January.
Yeah.
And they left 8 people injured. The 9th person was also directly injured by Kazuhiro Kasukabe. Although Aleph or any of the Aum Shinrikyo members, I don't think they still claim themselves as Aum Shinrikyo members. Aleph did not acknowledge these attacks. And that is Aum Shinrikyo.
Ooh, that is a lot.
Dude, I had to eliminate a lot of parts because, we were gonna take 2 hours just on Aum Shinrikyo alone, and we barely even covered the Tokyo sarin gas attacks, which is like a whole nother
That's like their biggest offense.
Yeah, we're gonna cover that in the next episode, but we won't be recording that today because we're losing our minds.
Yes, we are so done. And plus I don't know if you can tell, but it's gotten darker on my side already.
Yep.
Like I don't have a sun
There's
anymore.
No more sun. My sun is artificial, so that's why it's still there.
You're not losing it. Yeah. But anyway, you guys, creepers, I really urge you to... wow. My brain just went blank.
Let us know what you think about this and the shit that you learned or did not learn.
Or shit that you know that you want us to learn. Right?
Yeah. Let us know.
On our socials, that's Creepy Convos on Facebook, Twitter, and then Creepy Conversations on Instagram. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review on Spotify and iTunes.
Or wherever you listen.
Yes. Oh, no, wait. One more thing.
Patreon.
Yes, the most important thing. Patreon. Subscribe to our Patreon for exclusive content and bonus episodes. That's at patreon.com/creepyconvos. And thanks for creeping, you fucking creeper.
And remember, Aum Shinrikyo or the Aleph might be watching you.